Get on your knees! Derek Collins grabs 67-year-old Marcus Thompson by the collar and shoves him toward the floor of Soul Food Sanctuary. His friends film, laughing as the elderly black man catches himself against a table. That's where you belong, crawling like the worthless piece of shit you are. Derek kicks over Marcus's cleaning bucket, dirty water flooding everywhere. Clean it up with your tongue, old man. Derek snatches the framed wedding photo from the counter, Marcus's late wife in her Sunday dress. He spits directly on the glass, then hurls it at the wall. It explodes into pieces. Your dead wife would be ashamed of this pathetic excuse for a man. Derek's designer shoe grinds the broken glass deeper into the floor. Maybe I should come back tonight and really trash this dump. Marcus kneels slowly, gathering the glass fragments of his wife's photo. His weathered hands shake, but not from fear. The three thugs swagger out, completely unaware they just threatened the most dangerous ex-fighter in the city. Soul Food Sanctuary sits like a weathered guardian on the corner of MLK Boulevard and Peach Street, its faded yellow paint telling stories of 4 decades in this Atlanta neighborhood. The hand-painted sign above the door shows chips and cracks, but the words "All Welcome" remain bold and clear. Inside, mismatched tables and chairs create an atmosphere of worn comfort. The walls display a curious collection, faded newspaper clippings, community photos, and boxing memorabilia that most visitors barely notice. One corner holds a shrine of sorts, a larger photo of a beautiful black woman in a church dress, surrounded by wilted flowers and a wedding ring on a small chain. Marcus Thompson moves through his domain with quiet precision. Every morning at 5, he unlocks the door and begins the same ritual he's performed for 20 years. Prep vegetables, check the grits. Start the coffee that construction workers and night shift nurses depend on to begin their days. His hands tell stories, calloused from decades of work. But there's something else. The way he holds a knife shows perfect balance. His footwork around the kitchen flows like choreography. When he reaches for items on high shelves, his shoulders roll with surprising flexibility for a man his age. "Morning, champ," calls out Maria Santos as she rushes in, still in her hospital scrubs from the night shift. The single mother of 2 always stops here before picking up her kids from her neighbor's apartment. "Your usual, Maria?" Marcus's voice carries warmth reserved for his regulars. He slides a container of grits and eggs across the counter, waving away her attempt to pay full price. "Kids need their breakfast money more than I do." This sliding scale system keeps Soul Food Sanctuary barely breaking even. Marcus charges what people can afford, sometimes nothing at all. The construction crew pays full price to subsidize the struggling families. It's an unspoken agreement that's worked for years. Young Tommy Washington, 16 and eager, bursts through the back door after school. His lanky frame moves with the awkward energy of a teenager trying to become a man. "Mr. Marcus, I finished my homework. Can I help with the evening prep?" "Tables need wiping first," Marcus says, but his eyes show affection for the boy who reminds him of himself 40 years ago. Tommy works here 3 afternoons a week, earning money for boxing lessons at the community center. The kid's technique is rough, all enthusiasm and no form. Marcus occasionally demonstrates proper footwork while showing Tommy how to mop, subtle lessons disguised as kitchen work. Detective Alicia Williams stops by most Friday evenings, still in uniform but off-duty. She's one of the few who notices the boxing photos scattered among community pictures. Faded newspaper clippings with headlines like "Thompson wins Golden Gloves" and "Local fighter advances to nationals." "You ever miss it, Marcus?" she asked once, gesturing toward a photo of a young man with raised gloves standing over a fallen opponent. Marcus had paused, dish towel in hand. Miss what? Being someone people feared instead of pitied. He'd resumed cleaning without answering, but Detective Williams caught the flash in his eyes, something that suggested the old fighter wasn't as buried as everyone assumed. The neighborhood itself tells a story of change. Sleek condos rise 3 blocks away where elderly Mrs. Johnson's flower shop used to stand. A trendy coffee bar replaced the family barbershop. Young white professionals jog past Soul Food Sanctuary in expensive athletic wear, their eyes sliding over the building like it's invisible. Marcus watches these changes with the patience of someone who's survived worse storms. His rent has increased 30% in 2 years. The building needs repairs he can't afford, a leaking roof, outdated electrical, floors that creak with every step. But every morning at 5, he unlocks that door. Every evening, he counts the day's meager earnings and plans how to stretch ingredients for tomorrow's meals. His neighbors depend on this place, and Marcus Thompson doesn't abandon his post. What none of them know is that the gentle man serving their breakfast once stood in rings where careers ended with single punches, where military instructors sent their toughest soldiers to learn what real combat looked like. But that was another life, buried under 20 years of deliberately quiet living. Until today, when 3 men in expensive suits decided to remind him what it feels like to be hunted. The next morning brings Derek Collins back alone, his confident stride carrying him through Soul Food Sanctuary's door. In his hands, he holds a manila folder thick with official documents. Marcus looks up from prepping vegetables, his knife pausing mid-chop. Yesterday's humiliation hangs between them like smoke. "Morning, boy." Derek's voice drips false politeness as he drops the folder on the counter. "Hope you slept well in this dump." Marcus wipes his hands slowly and opens the folder. Inside, violation notices stamped with official city seals, health department infractions, fire code violations, structural safety concerns. Funny thing about city inspections, Derek examines his fingernails. Amazing how quickly problems appear when buildings get proper attention. Marcus studies the attached photographs showing his diner with impossible violations, exposed wiring that doesn't exist, pest infestations in areas he cleans daily, cracked foundations in walls he painted last month. These are fake. Derek's smile spreads like oil. "Prove it. You've got 30 days to address every violation or face closure. The fines?" He taps the bottom page. $50,000, due immediately. The number hits like a physical blow. 50,000 might as well be 50 million. Of course, I might help an old-timer like you, for the right price. The naked extortion hangs in the air. Marcus recognizes the shakedown that's probably destroyed dozens of neighborhood businesses. What kind of help? Simple. Sign over your lease for 10,000. I handle these violations, and you walk away with enough money for a nice apartment somewhere. Appropriate. Derek's eyes gleam with anticipated victory. He's played this game before. Marcus closes the folder carefully, his hands steady despite the earthquake in his chest. "I'll need time to review these. Time's the one thing you don't have, old man." That evening, Marcus sits alone studying every fabricated violation. But he's also remembering things buried for 20 years, like how to read an opponent's weaknesses before they know they have them. Derek's war against Soul Food Sanctuary begins at dawn on Monday. The power cuts out during the breakfast rush, leaving Marcus serving cold sandwiches to confused construction workers. "Routine maintenance," the utility company explains over the phone, "should be restored by evening." It happens again Tuesday and Wednesday. By Thursday, Marcus realizes this isn't coincidence. He watches Derek's silver BMW parked across the street, the man inside making phone calls and checking his watch like he's coordinating a military operation. The water department arrives Friday morning. "Emergency repairs," they announce, shutting off service for 48 hours. Marcus can't cook, can't clean, can't operate. His morning regulars leave disappointed, promising to return when things get sorted out. Derek's systematic destruction accelerates into the second week. Food suppliers start canceling contracts overnight. "Sorry, Mr. Thompson," his vegetable distributor explains nervously. "New company policy about risk assessment." When Marcus presses for details, the man's voice drops to a whisper. "Look, some people came by our warehouse. Said accidents happen to drivers who deliver to certain addresses. My guys have families, you understand?" The same story repeats with his meat supplier, his dairy distributor, even the company that delivers napkins and plastic forks. One by one, Marcus's lifelines get severed by invisible hands. Anonymous 911 calls start plaguing the diner. Gas leak reports fire trucks 3 times in 1 week. Each evacuation empties the restaurant during peak hours, costing Marcus customers and money he can't afford to lose. Health inspectors arrive daily now, armed with clipboards and suspicious expressions. They find nothing, but their presence creates the impression of a restaurant under investigation. Customers whisper and worry, their appetites fading with their confidence. Derek escalates to reputation warfare. Hired actors enter the diner during lunch rush, live streaming fake emergencies. A young white woman in designer clothes discovers roaches in her salad, insects she clearly planted herself. Her performance is Oscar-worthy, complete with screaming and demands for her money back. "Y'all, this old man just served me spoiled chicken," another fake customer broadcasts to her followers. "I'm about to be sick. Don't eat here." The videos explode across social media. Within hours, Soul Food Sanctuary trends locally for all the wrong reasons. Fake reviews flood Google and Yelp, each one more damaging than real criticism. But Derek's cruelest stroke targets Marcus personally. Late Tuesday night, vandals break into the diner. They don't steal anything valuable. Instead, they destroy what matters most. The memorial photo of Marcus's deceased wife lies shattered on the floor, her face obliterated by boot prints and profanity scrawled in permanent marker. Marcus finds the destruction at dawn, kneeling among the broken glass like a man discovering a murdered loved one. His hands shake as he gathers the fragments, trying to piece together what can never be fully repaired. From his car across the street, Derek watches through binoculars, his smile cold and satisfied. The third week brings attacks on Marcus's support network. Maria Santos arrives Wednesday morning in tears. "I'm sorry, Mr. Marcus. My supervisor says I can't come here anymore. Someone called my hospital, said I was associating with criminals under investigation. She needs her job to support 2 children. Marcus understands, but each goodbye cuts deeper than the last. Tommy faces worse pressure. Derek's men follow the 16-year-old home from school, their expensive cars crawling behind him like predators stalking prey. Anonymous calls flood child services with reports about Marcus grooming the boy. Tommy's mother arrives Friday evening, her face tight with fear and apology. "Baby, you can't work here anymore. These people, they're dangerous. They know where we live." Marcus watches his last ally walk away, leaving him truly alone. Detective Williams gets pulled into her captain's office. Internal Affairs received anonymous tips about her friendship with a man under multiple investigations. Her career hangs in the balance if she continues associating with Marcus. Their final conversation happens in whispers during her last visit. "They're destroying you systematically," she says, unable to meet his eyes. "This is organized, professional. Someone with serious resources wants you gone." "I know. Can you prove it?" Marcus touches the spot where his wife's photo used to hang. "Not yet." The financial devastation completes Derek's masterpiece. Marcus's bank account gets frozen due to suspicious activity reports, anonymous tips claiming money laundering. His rent triples overnight when the landlord claims a new market assessment. By month's end, Marcus counts his last $23 while sitting in his empty, powerless diner. No customers, no suppliers, no allies, no hope visible on any horizon. Derek arrives for his victory lap on a Thursday evening, bringing 5 associates, men bigger and meaner than his usual crew. Marcus sits alone at a corner table, the weight of defeat heavy on his shoulders. "Still here, old man?" Derek's voice echoes in the empty space. "Time to learn some respect." What happens next unfolds with deliberate, methodical cruelty. They flip tables while Marcus watches, their laughter filling the silence like breaking glass. Coffee pours across the floor where his wife's memorial used to stand. Derek finds the framed newspaper clipping from Marcus's boxing days, the last piece of pride hanging on the wall. He tears it slowly, letting the pieces flutter down like fallen leaves. "Fantasy time's over, boy. You ain't nobody special." But the final straw comes when Derek pulls out his phone, scrolling to a photo of Tommy walking home from school. "That little kid who used to help you? Shame if something happened to him on his way home tomorrow." Something shifts in Marcus's eyes. Something that's been sleeping for 20 years suddenly opens one eye, then the other. The old fighter isn't dead. He's just been waiting for the right moment to wake up. Marcus sits in his darkened diner long after Derek's crew leaves, their threats echoing in the silence. The torn newspaper clipping lies scattered at his feet like fallen memories. He walks slowly to the back room where he keeps personal belongings, each step deliberate and measured. From a dusty box beneath old inventory sheets, he pulls out items he hasn't touched in decades. Hand wraps, faded and yellowed but still strong. A small notebook filled with combinations and training notes in his younger handwriting. A photo of himself at 25, gloves raised in victory, eyes blazing with confidence he thought he'd lost forever. Marcus examines his reflection in the cracked mirror above the prep sink. The face looking back shows every year of his age, every disappointment of recent weeks. But deeper, beneath the exhaustion and defeat, something else stirs. He removes his wedding ring, kissing it gently before placing it beside his wife's broken photo. "Forgive me, baby," he whispers to her memory, "but I can't let them hurt that boy." Marcus begins stretching for the first time in 20 years. His muscles remember movements his mind tried to forget. Shoulder rolls, neck rotations, the precise footwork that once made him untouchable in the ring. He's not planning to start violence. But when Derek inevitably brings it to his door tomorrow, Marcus Thompson will be ready to finish it. Some sleeping giants should never be awakened. Derek arrives the next morning with 6 men instead of his usual 3. These aren't his wealthy friends with their phones and smirks. These are professionals. Thick necks, scarred knuckles, eyes that have seen violence and liked what they found. Marcus stands behind his counter, calmly wiping down the same spot for the 3rd time. His movements are different today, more fluid, purposeful. The elderly customer in the corner booth, Mrs. Henderson, sips her coffee and pretends to read her newspaper while watching everything. "Time's up, old man." Derek's voice carries new authority backed by obvious muscle. "Sign the papers or we make this really uncomfortable." Marcus continues cleaning, his breathing steady and controlled. The silence stretches until it becomes uncomfortable for everyone except him. "Are you deaf or just stupid?" The largest associate, a man built like a refrigerator with arms, steps forward. His name is Tank, and prison tattoos cover his forearms like warning labels. Marcus sets down his rag and looks directly at Tank. "I hear you fine. Then you know it's time to go." Tank's voice carries the confidence of someone who's never met real resistance. He grabs Marcus by the arm, fingers digging into muscle that feels surprisingly solid beneath the worn shirt. "Let go of my arm." Marcus's voice stays quiet, almost conversational. Tank laughs, his grip tightening. "Or what, Grandpa? Please, let go." The politeness seems to confuse Tank. He expected fear, anger, maybe begging. Instead, he's met with the kind of calm that makes smart men nervous and stupid men overconfident. Tank shoves Marcus backward, expecting the old man to stumble, maybe fall. Instead, Marcus absorbs the force like water, his feet automatically finding perfect balance. 20 years of muscle memory activate in microseconds. "I'm asking nicely," Marcus says, his hands at his sides but no longer relaxed. Tank swings a wild haymaker, putting his full weight behind a punch designed to end conversations permanently. Marcus slips it like smoke. The movement is so fluid, so effortless that for a moment nobody understands what happened. Tank's fist passes through empty air while Marcus pivots on his lead foot, his right hand delivering a precise body shot to the ribs. The sound is like a baseball bat hitting wet leather. Tank's knees buckle. His face turns gray as his diaphragm forgets how to work. He crumples to the floor, gasping like a landed fish, his confident swagger replaced by desperate wheezing. Pin-drop silence fills the diner. The second associate, Leon, stares at his fallen partner in shock. The Tank weighs 260 and bench presses cars for fun. Watching him fold from one punch rewrites everything Leon thought he knew about this situation. "What the hell?" Leon charges forward, rage overriding judgment. Marcus doesn't retreat. Instead, he steps into the attack, using Leon's momentum against him. A simple hip toss sends the man face first into the wall with a sickening thud. Leon slides down the painted surface, leaving a streak of blood where his nose made contact. Derek backs toward the door, his face pale with dawning realization. "You're done, old man! That's assault!" Marcus turns to face him, and Derek sees something in those eyes that makes his bladder want to empty. This isn't the broken old man from yesterday. This is someone who's been hiding in plain sight. "That's self-defense," Marcus says, his breathing still perfectly controlled. "You brought witnesses, Mrs." Henderson applauds slowly from her corner booth, her weathered hands making sounds like distant thunder. Her granddaughter, visiting from college, has been live-streaming the entire encounter on her phone. "Damn, Grandma," the girl whispers. "Your friend still got it." Derek's remaining associates help Tank and Leon to their feet. Both men lean heavily on their support, their earlier confidence replaced by wariness and pain. Marcus walks to his small first aid kit, pulling out ice packs and bottled water. He approaches the injured men with the same calm he showed while cleaning tables. "Y'all need to leave now," he says, offering them the ice. "But take care of those injuries first." The gesture confuses everyone. One moment he's dismantling grown men with surgical precision. The next he's providing medical attention like a concerned grandfather. Tank accepts the ice pack with shaking hands, pressing it against his ribs. What are you? Just an old man who knows how to protect himself." Derek's voice cracks when he tries to regain control. "This isn't over! You hear me? This isn't over!" But his threats ring hollow now. Everyone in the room understands that the power dynamic has shifted fundamentally. Derek brought violence to someone who mastered it decades before Derek learned to tie his shoes. Mrs. Henderson's granddaughter uploads the video immediately. Her caption reads, "Grandpa's friend still got it. Don't mess with Mr. Marcus. #don't mess with Marcus. #respect your elders." Within 2 hours, the video has 50,000 views. By evening, 2 million. By midnight, trending nationally. The footage shows everything. Derek's aggression, Tank's attack, Marcus's defensive response. More importantly, it captures the aftermath. Marcus helping his attackers, offering first aid to men who came to hurt him. Comments flood social media. "This man is a legend. That's how you handle bullies. Someone find this hero and give him a medal." Local news picks up the story. A GoFundMe appears within hours, started by strangers who want to support the elderly man defending his business. Tommy's mother sees the video and finally understands why her son idolized Marcus. But viral fame cuts both ways. Derek's legal team files assault charges before the video finishes spreading. They have edited footage showing only Marcus's response, removing the context of Tank's attack. "Violent ex-con attacks young businessmen," reads the next morning's headline in Derek's pocket newspaper. The media narrative begins shifting. Derek's PR firm works overtime, painting him as a victim of unprovoked rage. They leak selective information about Marcus's boxing past, focusing on the one opponent he accidentally hospitalized 30 years ago. Anonymous sources describe Marcus as unstable and dangerous. The same video that made him a hero to millions becomes evidence of his violent nature in carefully edited news segments. Marcus watches the coverage from his empty diner, understanding that winning one battle doesn't guarantee victory in the war. Derek's counterattack is already underway, and this time he's using weapons Marcus never learned to fight. The old boxer may have remembered how to throw punches, but the young businessman knows how to throw lawyers, judges, and public opinion. The real fight is just beginning. The criminal charges land like a sledgehammer to Marcus's chest. Aggravated assault, assault with intent to cause bodily harm, assault on multiple victims. Each count carries potential prison time that would end his life behind bars. Derek's lawyer, Vincent Morrison, holds a press conference outside the courthouse. His client stands beside him wearing a neck brace and walking with a cane, props that weren't necessary 24 hours ago. "My client attempted to conduct legitimate business when this man exploded in unprovoked violence," Morrison declares to rolling cameras. "Mr. Collins suffers ongoing trauma from this vicious attack by a man with a documented history of violence." The edited security footage plays on every local news station. Derek's team has surgically removed his aggression, Tank's attack, even the threats against Tommy. What remains shows only Marcus's devastating response, an elderly black man destroying two younger white men with apparent ease and obvious skill. The narrative writes itself in America's perpetual racial playbook. Dangerous ex-con attacks innocent businessmen screams from newspaper headlines. Talk radio hosts debate whether violent criminals should be allowed to operate businesses near schools and families. Derek's media strategy proves brutally effective. They leak carefully selected information about Marcus's past. Military combat training, boxing career, the opponent he accidentally hospitalized in 1987. Each revelation adds another layer to their portrait of a ticking time bomb who finally exploded. Public opinion reverses overnight. The same social media platforms that celebrated Marcus's stand now overflow with different commentary. Typical thug behavior. Should have been locked up years ago. This is why I don't go to those neighborhoods. Violent criminal hiding behind fake victim story. The GoFundMe campaign, which reached $200,000, is frozen pending investigation into potential fraud. Donors demand refunds after learning about Marcus's criminal background. Maria Santos watches the news coverage at home, her children asking why the nice man from the diner is on TV with handcuffs. She wants to defend Marcus, to tell everyone about his kindness and generosity, but her supervisor has already warned that any public support could cost her job. Tommy sees the reports and argues with his mother. "They're lying about Mr. Marcus. He's not violent." "Baby, that video shows him hurting people. Maybe we didn't know him as well as we thought." Even Tommy's certainty wavers under constant media assault. His friends at school call Marcus a psycho and ask if Tommy knew he was dangerous. The teenager finds himself questioning memories, wondering if kindness might have masked something darker. The legal proceedings begin with Marcus at severe disadvantage. His public defender, Sarah Carter, is young, overworked, and overwhelmed by the prosecution's resources. She suggests a plea bargain during their first meeting. "Mr. Thompson, they have video evidence and medical reports. Your military and boxing background works against you. A jury will see a trained fighter attacking civilians. I was defending myself. The edited footage doesn't show that. We're looking at serious prison time if we go to trial." District Attorney Robert Hayes announces his personal involvement in the prosecution. He's running for re-election in 6 months, and a high-profile conviction of a violent criminal polls well with suburban voters worried about urban crime. "This case represents everything wrong with our justice system," Hayes declares at another press conference. "Dangerous individuals hiding behind victim narratives while terrorizing honest business owners. My office will ensure justice prevails." The preliminary hearing becomes a media circus. Derek arrives in his wheelchair now, claiming ongoing back injuries from being thrown against furniture. His testimony is polished, sympathetic, and devastating. "I went to Mr. Thompson's establishment, hoping to help him transition to retirement with dignity," Derek says, his voice breaking slightly. "Instead, I encountered pure rage. He attacked my associates without warning, without provocation. I've never experienced such terrifying violence." Derek's performance is Academy Award caliber. He describes Marcus as a predator who lured them into his restaurant before unleashing years of pent-up aggression. The edited security footage supports every word. "I have nothing personal against Mr. Thompson," Derek continues, dabbing his eyes with tissue. "I pray he gets the mental health treatment he clearly needs, but dangerous people must face consequences." The prosecutor presents Marcus's background like evidence of premeditation: military hand-to-hand combat training, 40-year boxing career, the 1987 incident where his opponent spent 3 weeks in a coma. "Ladies and gentlemen, this defendant is a weapon disguised as a harmless old man. These weren't lucky punches or adrenaline responses. This was calculated violence by someone trained to hurt people." Marcus sits silently through the character assassination, watching his life's work reduced to evidence of criminal intent. The prosecutor makes his decades of service sound like practice for this moment of violence. But Derek's masterpiece comes during cross-examination. When Sarah Carter questions his version of events, Derek's mask slips just enough to reveal the calculating mind beneath. "Miss Carter, are you suggesting your client had the right to nearly kill 2 men over a simple business disagreement?" "I'm suggesting my client defended himself against attackers." Derek's smile turns predatory. "Your client is a violent man who chose brutality over dialogue. He represents everything wrong with certain communities that resist progress." The racial subtext hangs in the courtroom air like smoke. Derek has found the perfect dog whistle, never explicitly mentioning race while making sure everyone understands the underlying narrative. Detective Williams watches from the gallery, her hands clenched in frustration. She's been conducting her own investigation during off hours, following paper trails and interviewing witnesses Derek's team hasn't intimidated into silence. She's discovered a pattern spanning 3 years. 12 Black-owned businesses were forced out through systematic harassment, property values that mysteriously plummet before Derek's development deals, city inspectors who find violations only in minority-owned establishments. But her evidence gathering has been careful, quiet work. She can't testify without compromising her own investigation, and Internal Affairs is watching her every move. The judge sets bail at $50,000, money Marcus doesn't have. The same community that once supported him now views him as a threat. Protesters gather outside the courthouse with signs reading, "Lock him up," and "Justice for victims." Marcus spends his first night in jail sharing a cell with men young enough to be his grandsons. They treat him with wary respect. Word has spread about the old man who dismantled professional muscle with surgical precision. "Yo, Pops," one young inmate says quietly. "You really take out them white boys like they show on TV?" I defended myself. "Man, I wish I could defend myself like that. They're gonna bury you, though. The system doesn't like when we fight back, even when we are right." Marcus lies awake on the thin mattress, staring at ceiling stains and realizing this might be where his story ends. Not in his diner serving neighbors, not surrounded by friends and memories, but in a cage designed to hold dangerous men. Derek's plan is working perfectly. Public opinion, legal pressure, and media manipulation combine like a perfect storm designed to destroy not just Marcus, but the very idea that people like him deserve to defend themselves. Tomorrow brings arraignment, where Marcus will officially plead to charges that could steal his final years. Outside, Derek celebrates his approaching victory, certain that justice, his version of it, will finally prevail. But some battles are won in courtrooms while others are won in the shadows, where patient investigators gather evidence that could change everything. The trial begins on a Monday morning that feels like Judgment Day. Marcus sits at the defendant's table in his only good suit, borrowed from Tommy's father, who finally agreed to help despite the risks. The courtroom fills with faces, some curious, some hostile, many already convinced of his guilt. Prosecutor Hayes delivers his opening statement like a sermon about law and order. He paints Marcus as the predator who exploited society's sympathy for elderly victims while harboring the heart of a killer. "Ladies and gentlemen, appearances deceive. This defendant wants you to see a harmless old man, but evidence reveals a trained killer who chose violence over dialogue, force over cooperation." The prosecution's case unfolds with devastating efficiency. Medical testimony describes Tank's broken ribs and Leon's concussion in clinical detail. Expert witnesses explain how Marcus's military training makes his hands lethal weapons. The edited security footage plays repeatedly, each viewing making Marcus look more monstrous. Derek takes the stand wearing his victim costume, neck brace, back brace, haunted expression. His testimony has been rehearsed to perfection. I approached Mr. Thompson with compassion, hoping to help him transition to retirement with dignity. Instead, I encountered something terrifying. Years of suppressed rage erupting without warning. Derek's voice breaks at precisely the right moments. He describes the attack as unprovoked, claiming he only wanted to discuss community development opportunities that would benefit everyone. "I have nothing against Mr. Thompson personally," Derek continues, looking directly at the jury. "I understand the challenges facing his demographic in adapting to neighborhood improvements. But progress cannot be held hostage by one man's stubbornness or violence." The racial subtext flows like poison through his testimony. Never explicit, always deniable, but unmistakably present. Derek represents order, progress, civilization itself standing against primitive violence from people who refuse to accept their proper place. Cross-examination proves futile. Sarah Carter lacks the resources and experience to crack Derek's performance. Every question allows him to reinforce his victim narrative while painting Marcus as increasingly dangerous. "Miss Carter, are you seriously suggesting that your client's military combat training and boxing career are irrelevant to his capacity for violence?" "I'm suggesting that my client defended himself against what? Business discussions? Paperwork? Your client chose brutality because that's what he knows." The character assassination continues through the prosecution's witnesses. A parade of experts explain how childhood trauma, military service, and boxing careers create violent tendencies. Marcus's entire life becomes evidence of criminal predisposition. Tank and Leon testify about their ongoing suffering. Tank claims permanent lung damage from the body shot. Leon describes headaches and memory problems from hitting the wall. Both men have clearly been coached, their testimonies perfectly coordinated to maximize sympathy. "All we did was stand there," Tank says, his voice shaking with apparent emotion. "This old man went crazy for no reason. I got kids at home, they ask why Daddy can't play catch anymore." The defense case crumbles before it begins. Character witnesses are too intimidated to testify. Maria Santos receives death threats for considering supporting Marcus. Tommy's family faces eviction if he takes the stand. Sarah Carter calls the few witnesses willing to speak. Mrs. Henderson describes Marcus's character and the context the edited footage conceals, but the prosecutor demolishes her credibility during cross-examination. "Ma'am, isn't it true you've received meals from the defendant at reduced prices for years?" "Well, yes, but so you have financial motivation to protect your meal source? This testimony is hardly objective." Marcus finally takes the stand in his own defense, knowing he has nothing left to lose. His testimony is quiet, dignified, devastating in its honesty. "I spent 40 years learning to control strength that could hurt people. I retired from fighting because I accidentally put a man in the hospital and never wanted to hurt anyone again. What happened in my diner wasn't anger, it was protection." But Hayes's cross-examination turns Marcus's honor into evidence of deception. "Mr. Thompson, you claim to be peaceful, yet your response to a simple business discussion was immediate, overwhelming violence. How do you explain this contradiction? They attacked first. The video shows you attacking Mr. Thompson. Are you claiming the evidence lies?" Marcus realizes the trap. The edited footage is the only version most jurors have seen. Without context, his defensive actions look like unprovoked assault. The video doesn't show everything that happened. "So you're asking this jury to ignore physical evidence and trust your word, the word of a man trained to kill?" The prosecution's closing argument builds to an inevitable crescendo. Hayes positions the case as civilization versus chaos, order versus violence, innocent victims versus dangerous criminals. "This defendant exploited your sympathy, your desire to help the disadvantaged, but under that mask of elderly vulnerability lurks something far more dangerous, a man who believes his fists solve problems that words cannot." Then Detective Williams enters the courtroom during the prosecution's final moments, her face grim with purpose. She approaches the defense table carrying a thick folder of evidence that's taken months to compile. Sarah Carter requests an emergency recess to review new evidence. The judge reluctantly agrees, sensing something significant developing. In the conference room, Williams spreads out her investigation like a military operation. Financial records showing Derek's systematic targeting of black-owned businesses. Recorded phone conversations planning pressure campaigns. Witness statements from other victims too scared to come forward earlier. The smoking gun is Derek's own voice on a wiretapped conversation with his business partner. "These old black shop owners always fold if you pressure them right. The secret is making it personal, hitting what they love most. That diner guy's wife is dead, so we go after the kid who helps him. Make him understand the cost of resistance." When court reconvenes, the defense presents its bombshell evidence. The FBI had been investigating Derek's development company for civil rights violations, using Detective Williams as their inside source. The recorded conversation plays in stunned silence. "The Thompson situation is perfect. We break him publicly. Make an example. Other shop owners see what happens to troublemakers. Fear is the best business tool we got." Derek's mask finally slips completely. When the recordings play, his calm facade cracks, revealing the calculating predator beneath. "That's illegal surveillance," he shouts, standing despite his supposed back injuries. "You can't use that!" His sudden mobility contradicts months of victim performance. The jury sees everything, the dropped act, the explosive anger, the complete absence of injury in his furious movement. Additional evidence floods the courtroom. Other business owners finally find courage to testify about Derek's identical tactics. The pattern becomes undeniable. Systematic harassment designed to force out minority-owned businesses for profit. Marcus's character witnesses emerge from hiding. Former military trainees describe his teachings about restraint and de-escalation. Boxing students explain how he emphasized defense over aggression. "Sergeant Thompson could have killed those men easily," testifies a former Special Forces soldier. "Instead, he used minimal force to stop immediate threats. That's exactly what he taught us. Neutralize danger without causing unnecessary harm." The trial's momentum shifts like a tide turning. Derek's elaborate construction collapses under the weight of documented evidence and his own recorded words. In his final testimony, Marcus speaks directly to the jury with quiet dignity. "I never wanted to fight again. But when evil threatens innocent people, especially children, silence becomes complicity. Sometimes protecting peace means being ready to defend it. The closing arguments become anticlimactic. Hayes's prosecution withers under the weight of evidence showing Derek as the true aggressor. Sarah Carter's defense transforms into a passionate defense of every person's right to protect themselves and their community. The jury deliberates for 18 minutes. We, the jury, find the defendant, Marcus Thompson, not guilty on all charges. The words thunder through the courtroom. Marcus closes his eyes as 20 years of buried weight lifts from his shoulders. Sarah Carter grabs his arm, tears streaming while applause erupts from the gallery. Derek's careful mask shatters completely. "This is bullshit!" he screams, lurching upright without any trace of his supposed back injury. "That animal attacked innocent people! This jury is rigged!" His outburst provides the final evidence of his deception. Security moves toward him as his lawyer desperately attempts damage control. "You people don't understand. This neighborhood was garbage before we improved it." Judge Martinez pounds her gavel. "Mr. Collins, control yourself or face contempt." Derek can't stop. Months of suppressed arrogance pour out in racial invective that destroys any remaining sympathy. "These people don't deserve—" "Bailiff, remove Mr. Collins immediately." As Derek gets dragged away still shouting, Detective Williams approaches with federal warrants. Civil rights violations, conspiracy, extortion, tax evasion, charges that will destroy him completely. Outside, a transformed crowd awaits Marcus. Tommy pushes through to embrace him, tears flowing freely. "Mr. Marcus, I knew they were lying." Maria Santos appears with her children, apologizing for her absence. "I should have stood by you. Fear isn't an excuse." Mrs. Henderson approaches with quiet dignity. "Some of us never stop believing, champ." The media circus that destroyed Marcus now rebuilds him. News cameras capture his grace, his forgiveness, his complete absence of bitterness despite months of persecution. Derek's recorded conversations play on national news by evening. His systematic targeting becomes a federal case study in modern discrimination. Collins' development engaged in calculated racial terrorism, announces FBI Special Agent Rodriguez. This investigation reveals civil rights violations spanning multiple states. Derek's empire collapses within days. Partners flee, investors demand refunds, assets get frozen. The man who destroyed others through systematic pressure now faces federal prosecutors with unlimited resources. City Council passes the Marcus Thompson Anti-Displacement Act unanimously, protecting legacy businesses from discriminatory harassment. Economic development cannot become economic terrorism, Councilmember Johnson declares while reading the legislation. The GoFundMe explodes past $500,000 as nationwide supporters contribute. Marcus uses most donations to establish legal defense funds for other small business owners facing similar pressure. Soul Food Sanctuary reopens with neighborhood-wide celebration. Community-funded repairs transform the diner while preserving its essential character. Marcus returns behind his counter, serving familiar and new faces drawn by his story. His quiet strength now carries the weight of victory earned through suffering. Tommy resumes work, his respect deepened by understanding real courage. Detective Williams becomes a regular customer, her investigation earning national recognition. Marcus begins teaching defense and dignity classes in the back room. Elderly residents, single mothers, small business owners attend, anyone understanding that standing up sometimes requires backing words with action. "Strength isn't about what you can do to someone," he tells students. "It's about what you won't let them do to you, your family, your community." Derek's sentencing approaches. Federal prosecutors seek 8 years maximum for civil rights violations and conspiracy. Marcus doesn't plan to attend. He's too busy serving breakfast to neighbors who finally understand the quiet man behind the counter was never helpless, just patient. The victory resonates beyond personal vindication. Marcus's story inspires similar resistance across the country. Small business owners facing discriminatory pressure find new courage to fight back legally. #Justice for Marcus becomes #Stand Up for Small Business, a movement supporting community preservation against exploitative development. Derek sits in federal detention, his privileged life replaced by the reality of consequences. His recorded words, "These old black shop owners always fold if you pressure them right," play endlessly on news cycles, ensuring his reputation remains destroyed forever. Marcus's boxing photos return to the diner walls, no longer hidden reminders of violence, but proud displays of strength used righteously. Customers study them with new understanding, seeing not just an athlete but a protector who waited 20 years for the right moment to defend his community. The neighborhood itself transforms. Other legacy businesses find renewed support. Property values stabilize as community organizing prevents further displacement. Derek's systematic destruction backfires, creating stronger bonds among residents. Most significantly, Marcus's example spreads beyond economics into pure inspiration. His story proves that age doesn't eliminate relevance, that quiet people often possess the deepest strength, that justice delayed isn't always justice denied. Young people especially connect with his message. Tommy starts a blog documenting similar struggles nationwide. His posts go viral, connecting vulnerable communities with legal resources and organizing strategies. Marcus Thompson saved more than his diner. He saved the idea that ordinary people can defeat systematic oppression through courage, patience, and perfectly timed action. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who's learned that protecting others justifies any personal cost. 6 months after the trial, Soul Food Sanctuary bustles with life that seemed impossible during Derek's terror campaign. The morning rush brings construction workers, nurses, and new faces drawn by Marcus's story. But real transformation happens in the back room every Tuesday and Thursday evening. "Keep your guard up, Mrs. Patterson. Breathe through the movement." 80-year-old Grace Patterson throws combinations with surprising precision, arthritic hands wrapped in foam padding. Beside her, Maria Santos practices defensive footwork while her teenage daughter learns joint locks that could save her walking home. Marcus's defense and dignity classes attract students from seniors facing elder abuse to single mothers navigating dangerous neighborhoods. The curriculum extends beyond physical technique. Self-defense starts in your mind, Marcus explains. Know your worth. Recognize threats early. Understand that backing down from bullies invites more bullying. Tommy, now 17 and transformed by watching his mentor triumph over systematic oppression, assists with younger students. His college essays focus on community organizing, themes inspired by Marcus's example. Marcus taught me strength isn't about hurting people, Tommy tells documentary crews. It's about protecting yourself and others with skill, not anger. Major Networks film Defending Dignity, the Marcus Thompson story, premiering next month. Marcus approaches fame with characteristic humility. "I didn't set out to be anybody's hero. I just refused to let evil win without a fight." Derek's fate provides stark contrast. Federal prison stripped away privilege, leaving him facing consequences wealth can't eliminate. His 8-year sentence includes restitution continuing long after release. Derek's recorded conversations became evidence in 12 additional civil rights cases. His targeting methods appear in federal training materials teaching investigators to recognize modern discrimination. Cities nationwide pass anti-displacement protection acts modeled on Marcus's legislation. Business advocacy groups cite his victory when challenging discriminatory development. Marcus Thompson proved organized oppression can be defeated through courage, evidence, and community support, explains Dr. Sarah Williams, studying gentrification resistance. His case provides a roadmap for effective resistance. Marcus's GoFundMe peaked at $2 million, funding legal defense networks in 8 cities. The Marcus Thompson Foundation provides free legal assistance to small businesses facing discriminatory pressure. Success hasn't changed Marcus's routine. 5 a.m. arrival, sliding scale prices, treating every customer with dignity Derek tried destroying. His wife's memorial photo, professionally restored and reframed, holds place of honor behind the counter. Customers notice Marcus touching his wedding ring while looking at her image. Drawing strength, love couldn't diminish. Detective Williams, promoted to lieutenant after her nationally recognized investigation, visits weekly. Her success exposing Derek's network created a specialized unit investigating economic discrimination. Marcus's courage gave us the breakthrough we needed, she explains. His willingness to fight back created an opportunity to expose systematic corruption. Neighborhood transformation extends beyond individual victory. Property values stabilized as organizing prevented displacement. New businesses opened with community input, ensuring development serves residents rather than replacing them. Marcus's story inspires nationwide resistance. Stand with Marcus evolved into defend your community, connecting vulnerable neighborhoods with organizing resources and legal support. Social media amplifies his message daily. Self-defense class videos spread across platforms, teaching techniques while emphasizing underlying philosophy. Comments overflow with personal stories of people finding courage through his example. Everyone has the right to defend themselves, their community, their dignity, Marcus tells students as cameras roll. The question isn't whether you're strong enough, it's whether you're prepared enough. His influence reaches beyond immediate community. Small business owners nationwide draw inspiration from his victory. Legal precedents established through his case protect others facing similar systematic pressure. Tommy starts a blog documenting struggles nationwide. Posts go viral, connecting vulnerable communities with resources and strategies. Young people especially connect with messages about standing up to institutional oppression. The final scene captures everything. Marcus teaching proper stance to a young mother while her toddler plays nearby. Tommy demonstrating combinations to elderly students. Mrs. Henderson applauding from her corner table. The community was rebuilt through shared strength and mutual protection. Derek sits in federal detention, his privileged life replaced by consequences that money couldn't prevent. His legacy becomes a warning about the price of systematic oppression in communities that refuse to remain silent. What would you do facing systematic oppression? How far would you go protecting your community? Share Marcus's story. Support local businesses under pressure. Learn to defend yourself and others. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who's learned that real strength comes from protecting others, not proving yourself. Subscribe for more stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Be the change your community needs. Defend your community. Stand up for justice. Strength through unity.